Chair Cleveland, committee members, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share the governor's budget proposal that is related to our department. For the record, my name is Tarek Tomes. I am the Commissioner of Minnesota IT Services and the CIO for the state of Minnesota. And I'm joined today by Deputy Commissioner John Eichten, and we're going to tag team this a bit. We're incredibly excited to share more information and certainly look forward to more in-depth conversation related to the budget items that we're about to cover. The theme for this budget, and I just wanted to point it out for us, is moving technology forward for Minnesotans. And I think it's really important, the latter part of that, for Minnesotans, because it's a really, really central focus of the work that we do. All of the budget proposals contained herein, and really a lot of the budget proposals in the governor's budget in general, certainly heavily influenced by the work that the Blue Ribbon Council on IT has done and the Technology Advisory Committee. And these budget items really support the recommendations and the implementation of many of those recommendations. Really, the three overarching things that I would love the committee to really focus in on as it relates to the items that we're about to discuss. This budget proposal is really about reducing risk, and reducing risk quite significantly, improving the customer service experience for Minnesotans for how they interact with government, and we'll share a few examples, really driving towards meeting Minnesotans where they're at. And frequently where they're at is in different locations and in different spaces, and allowing people options and agility to interact with government. And then last but not least, certainly, is improving and changing how we work, making sure that we are the best stewards of taxpayer resources, and that we're working effectively, and that we're using the tools and technologies in a way that we are as efficient and effective in delivering government services as we can be. So the first budget item that I'd like to discuss with you is advancing cybersecurity statewide. And really, as an analogy, I think one could view this as just continuing to build a bigger fence, if you will, or building a few additional fences. But as we discuss more of the budget items, it's really a holistic approach that we have to take. We can't just continue to build higher fences. We also have to make sure that we work at the internals of the services and make sure that cybersecurity is interwoven with the technologies and applications and services that are being provided. One thing, and this is relatively new, but I just wanted to share and certainly look at this at your leisure. The World Economic Forum just recently met, I think in the last 2 to 3 days, or maybe 4 days ago in Switzerland. And really one of the sobering things that came out of the World Economic Forum, a quite reputable source, is a prediction that there will be a catastrophic, and they use the word catastrophic, cybersecurity event worldwide in the next couple of years. And, you know, really it's, I think, driven by geopolitical activities that are happening worldwide, and the spillover that happens when nation states target different countries or organizations from a cyber perspective, and you just really can't contain that. And so the spillover effect and the risk associated with that is quite high. There are three main parts to this particular proposal. One, really, really crucial, and all of it builds on our whole-of-state approach to protecting Minnesotans' data and information and the services that are provided, and really thinking about all layers of government, everything from tribal nations, cities, counties, educational institutions, and certainly executive branch as well. One key element of this is obtaining $18 million of funding that is a part of the federal infrastructure bill that is intended and directly to support local forms of government. The state would or is required to provide a $5 million match over 4 years, so just one-time $5 million over 4 years to obtain $18 million of federal funding in the federal infrastructure bill. And that would allow us to provide $23 million to local forms of government, tribal nations, cities, counties, local municipalities. We have a statewide cybersecurity task force that is currently developing a whole-of-state cybersecurity strategic plan for how those funds can be used that has broad representation from both rural and urban areas. It has representation from counties, from cities, from tribal nations, representation from public health, representation from the private sector, representation from critical infrastructure providers, and really confident that that group and the various diverse perspectives that that group represents will create a plan that will make sure that that $23 million in funding really improves the state's cybersecurity risk from a local perspective. The second element of this is really work that is crucial in improving and protecting the way Minnesotans authenticate and log into services that are provided from a state perspective, just making sure that the characteristics and the protections that are in what we refer to as an identity management solution have all of the protections that are necessary, and certainly moving and really taking strong inroads towards creating a single identity space, if you will, so consolidating areas where there are multiple identities that are managed that creates inefficiencies. And then last but not least in this space is continuing to build out multiple layers of defenses for the work that we're doing protecting the 2,400 applications that really are the engine behind the services that state government provides. The next slide, and again, you know, and I'll probably say this unfortunately too many times, but the next slide, you know, really is a companion to that slide, and it's really shifting fundamentally the way we work, and not shifting the way we work towards a new and emerging space, but really shifting the way we work to a way that the world in general works, and that is moving the infrastructure services that we provide and embracing a multi-cloud space where we're literally paying for what we use. When you are using capital expenditures and buying and outfitting data centers, you have to buy capacity to ride the peak loads, if you will, and that means that at times of the year you have excess capacity that goes unused. This allows us to move to a cloud space that will ensure that we're literally only paying for the services that we use, that we can accommodate those peak loads, that we can burst out excess capacity. We will have more innovation available for us, the things that are quickly and rapidly evolving in the cloud spaces. And then last but not least, these spaces allow and provide for greater resiliency. They allow for a greater ability to recover in the event that there is a cyber event or another event or any other event that necessitates any type of recovery. It really puts us in a place where we're moving to a future-proofed way of working. I think in the out years, and certainly very difficult to quantify, but I think in the out years it's safe to say that there would be cost avoidance opportunities just related to our ability to use cloud resources when needed and not have to invest in capital expenditures in on-premise. And certainly a reduction in data center footprint is a core component of the work that we're doing in this particular space. The next area that I would like to discuss with the committee is what we refer to as targeted application modernization. The application portfolio for the executive branch of government is approximately 2,400 applications in size and includes everything from large applications to smaller applications. The team from MnB referenced the ERP system, which really is one of the most critical systems in state government, and having sustainable operations and maintenance funding while we're also navigating towards what the future of the ERP looks like is very, very critical. But not all 2,400 line of business applications have a particular change item related to that. And this is really geared towards establishing a funding source that will support an improved customer service experience, an ability via governance, together partnering with the legislature, with the Technology Advisory Committee, with other stakeholders that will allow us to identify opportunities where we can dramatically improve customer experience, also dramatically reduce the risk that we have from old technology. And behind every old piece of technology certainly is older ways of working. And so that keeping at the forefront that customer experience and being able to transform the way we do things. Things, for example, like renewing driver's licenses online, as we did in the pandemic, where over 300,000 Minnesotans were able to renew a driver's license online. Finding those opportunities together with a governance structure that helps highlight and illuminate those opportunities. I wanted to just, maybe share this one. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and literally that funding source is geared towards finding these and identifying these opportunities that exist. And it can be everything from automation, using robotic process automation to automate tasks that are currently done manually, really driving at the efficiency and effectiveness of government, or modernizing how someone interacts and the ability to quickly receive services. This picture here is the way that a number of critical services from DHS are obtained by Minnesotans. The picture on the left and the picture on the right, I think, speaks for itself. Apply MN was the old mechanism that Minnesotans applied for those crucial benefits, hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans. And the picture on the right is the modernized version of that. Literally took that application process from 1 hour to less than 10 minutes, has customer sentiment built into it, and really core and parcel to the success of that particular activity was it started with a human-centered design activity where we literally, together with a partner, Code4 America, interviewed Minnesotans with how they interacted with these services that led to the design and will lead to an effort to continually take that customer sentiment, that Minnesotans are sharing with us in this particular application and continue to evolve and improve it, but also put more services behind it. The previous version required a login and an authentication. Actually wasn't necessary. The new version does not require an authentication and a login, certainly saving 50 minutes of time for hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans. If we do the rough napkin math, I mean, that is literally over a couple of decades of time that we have returned to Minnesotans in transacting with government. This particular funding capacity is geared towards that customer service experience and that customer service transformation. The next one that I would like to share with you is related to the Children's Cabinet and the work that the Children's Cabinet does, and really, I think, a partner companion, if you will, to the change item that we just heard from MMB. This creates necessary IT capacity to really implement and support the interagency work that the Children's Cabinet undertakes. Currently, there is no dedicated IT capacity, and so when the Children's Cabinet undertakes an interagency effort, we literally have to stop work that is happening at an agency, use capacity at that particular agency, and that means that other priorities stop. This creates capacity. Examples of this is using direct Medicaid certification to support kids that are eligible for free and reduced lunch benefits. An interagency effort between the Department of Human Services, between the Department of Education, and certainly has been highly successful. Over 50,000 kids were certified for free and reduced lunch benefits. But the necessary IT capacity really had to be borrowed from different places to support this. And this creates IT capacity that will allow government to move quicker on the opportunities that are identified to help children and support the work of the Children's Cabinet. I'd like to pass it over now to Deputy Commissioner Eichten, who will walk through the remaining change items, Madam Chair.
Deputy Commissioner, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is John Eichten. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Minnesota IT Services. I'll cover a couple of the change items being proposed for offices within Minnesota IT Services, as well as the cash flow and operating adjustment. The first one here relates to the Minnesota Geospatial Information Office. We talked a little bit about GIS technology at the agency overview. Representative Nash talked about his background. Not commonly known, but MnGeo is an office within Minnesota IT Services that used to be part of the Department of Administration, but came in with consolidation. They lead the collaborative collection of geospatial information, so essentially mapping data and information about the physical features of the state of Minnesota. They work with counties, with federal agencies, with cities and regional governments to jointly collect that information and then create products and services from that information that are used not only by local government and state government, but by academia and the private sector as well. To give you a few examples, this is data that helps target solar installations. It helps with flood planning and flood mitigation activities. It helps with construction for MN.IT. It helps with forest planning for DNR. There's really a broad range of uses for data, this type of data. In addition, we're talking about LiDAR data. If you've heard about the incredible advances in LiDAR and the ability to essentially do flyovers of the state, map the physical features of the state, and very much improve planning through much more rich data sets. To give you an example, this office, because of a relatively flat budget over many years, they are engaged in these collaborative data collections but lack the funds to actually produce the derived products and services that industry needs to leverage this much more rich LiDAR data. So we're proposing an increase of roughly $734,000 and slightly higher in the next biennium. These are biennial totals to support their leadership activities in this space and reduce the duplication of effort that would otherwise occur where counties and various state agencies are going to collect data on their own, and oftentimes that data not being consistent or able to be brought together into a holistic statewide view. Flipping to the other office within MN.IT, this change item is for the the Office of the Chief Information Accessibility Officer. You may have encountered Jay Wyant, who's our CIAO. He leads an enterprise function that seeks to make the online services and web content, images, words in websites, as well as the tools that we use internally and externally more accessible to those with disabilities. So folks who maybe have visual impairments or develop intellectual disabilities. Minnesota has really been a leader in this space. Other states and the national associations look to us for resources and services, but there's not been an increase to the operating budget for this team since 2013. So we are requesting an increase so that we can maintain their current service level and really meet the increasing demand for accessibility testing and accessibility support in the procurement process, because many of the tools that we rely upon are vendor tools, and we need to work with those vendors and other states to continue to push for improvements in the accessibility arena. The next request is related to MN.IT's operating adjustment. This would, as was previously said by Deputy Commissioner Raytan, help us address increasing labor costs, compensation costs, separation, retirement costs, as well as insurance costs. To give you an example, MN.IT carries, as a result of the funding that was provided in 2019 by the legislature, we carry cyber insurance that covers the entirety of the executive branch in the event of a significant cyber attack or incident. That insurance rate nearly doubled in the upcoming or in the current biennium. So this gives you a sense of both the personnel and the non-personnel inflationary costs that we're working to address through this operating adjustment to be able to maintain current service levels. The final item, number 8, relates to cash flow assistance. This is really cash flow assistance authority for MN.IT to receive cash flow assistance from MMB. This has been part of the biennial budget bills, I believe, for the last 5 biennia or so, really ever since IT consolidation occurred back in 2011. There's a lag in time between when we incur expenses on behalf of agencies and then when we are paid back by those agencies for the services that we render to them. That creates a cash flow problem, and via this assistance, we're able to address that in partnership with MMB. All assistance is paid back within the biennium, so this results in a neutral proposal, a net zero proposal. Though it is, since it is budget related, it's carried in the budget bill. We are also proposing that this authority be put into MN.IT statute via our policy bill this session, so that we don't need to, I guess, waste your time with the same conversation every biennium. So I am happy to answer any questions that the committee might have and appreciate the opportunity to present these proposals.
I'll just ask one question really quickly on this cash flow authority that you're requesting. That would allow you more clout maybe when you're negotiating contracts with outside vendors, or?
Madam Chair, I would say without this authority, our ability to negotiate on behalf of the entire enterprise and leverage the full buying power of the enterprise would be almost non-existent. We need to be able to make a purchase on behalf of the whole executive branch, sign one contract with a provider, and then recoup those costs via monthly invoicing over the course of the year. So without this assistance, our ability to really be a single IT provider and the sole IT procurement agency would be extremely challenged.
All right, thank you. Members, we have 10 minutes, and we have on the list Representative Nash, Representative Hewitt, and Representative Nadeau. So I'll just ask that you please ask your questions and response be succinct. Thank you. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Commissioner, you and I have had this conversation, but I'd like to get it out in the open. So 2011 consolidation law was passed into reality. Statutorily, there are agencies that are supposed to be in the consolidated environment, and I know for a fact that there are several who are not. Can you tell us what your efforts are going to be to force that consolidation to actually shore up both the efficiency, cost effectiveness, and security of the outlying agencies, and then perhaps what stick you might need from the legislature to perhaps goad them along to become compliant?
Commissioner Tone.
Chair Cleavorn, Representative Nash, thank you for that question. And, we probably may have, slightly different perspectives on this particular question. While I certainly appreciate, the help that the legislative body could provide for that, it's no longer necessary. We are completely 100% consolidated. All technologists in Minnesota work under one organization. All technologists in Minnesota support one fundamental mission. We all share in the same mission, vision, value statements. The work that we're doing really has shifted from a consolidation to an optimization, and now we're really looking to drive that digital experience. And while what you're sharing, Representative Nash, was true years ago, everything that we do from a technology perspective across the executive branch and all agencies that are within our executive branch purview is really intentional on our part. And so when we maneuver or make a move, it is intentional, not because someone wants to or doesn't want to. And so from our perspective, certainly the consolidation activities ended a couple of years ago, and I'm really proud of the work that we have done over the past 4 years to bring that consolidation activity to a finish line. And now we're really working towards how can we not only leverage the efficiencies that are gained, but how can we thrive? How can we meet Minnesotans where they're at with the digital services that we provide?
Thank you so much. Lead Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Commissioner, in conversations that I've had within even just the last number of days, that's the message that you've just given is contrary to what I've been told, and I know from BRC and TAC conversations. So we will disagree on that. And I know you know what the agencies that I'm talking about, and I don't believe that they're consolidated fully in all of their efforts. And they continue to flex their muscle based on their perception of themselves. So we will save that for another day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Lead Nash. Vice Chair Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner, again, I haven't been on this committee for a term, and coming back to it and knowing that when I was first elected, this really was a circus in your area. It scared us all as legislators because we didn't know where we were going to go, and we didn't know where the governor was going to go. And I have to say, what you've done and where we've gone and where we've been is amazing. It's so cool to return to this committee and see the work that has transpired, how you've taken this department and really went out. So the governor got the best person here, and we didn't have to look too far from you. Too bad for St. Paul. So we're so happy that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, I'm glad you're here too. So I have two questions. I learned just today from MMB they had a fund balance that they've been using to buy down some costs. Does MN.IT have fund balance that you guys actually use to cut to fund some of your moves? And then the second thing, and maybe I'd like to start here. I don't have a lot of experience in this, but this sure seems like a significant increase in in the base spending. Is that the case, or am I reading this wrong? Am I just not understanding this? It seems big. So can you talk to that first and then talk about fund balance, please? Thank you.
Representative Tones, when you answer that question, if you would just add mine with that as well, the systemic disinvestment that you've had over the years as well. Thank you, and please respond.
Thank you.
Commissioner, sorry.
No worries.
Forgive me.
Thank you, Chair Cleavorn and Representative Nadeau. It certainly is a significant increase, if you will, but I think it comes from historic underspending. And it has to be bifurcated in a couple of different areas. One, not only do Minnesotans deserve the digital experiences that they expect, we really have to intentionally work towards those. And you know, pointing towards the hundreds of thousands of driver's licenses that are renewed online, and pointing towards the transactions that Minnesotans did with our unemployment insurance systems, how we interact in state parks. Bringing those digital experiences to Minnesotans requires an investment that is really, really crucial, and it brings about an efficiency in government that is essential. The cybersecurity risks and threats are, as Representative Nash is well aware, are very real, and our ability to stay ahead and continue to invest in those layers of defenses is really crucial, so that Minnesotans don't experience a critical disruption in government services. We're all aware of the events that happened in the news. Just recently, the FAA had to ground airplanes for a number of days due to aging technology. The 2,400 applications in our application portfolio, a significant number of those are older than 10 years, which means that the ability to patch and secure right now requires building bigger walls and bigger moats, which is inefficient and ineffective. And our ability to modernize those applications so that we can make sure that the layers of defenses that we're putting in place are crucial. We use a lot of different benchmarks, obviously, across the technology space and across the technology sector as it relates to the investment and spend in IT compared to the total investment and spend in government. And while these items certainly represent an increase in the base, they're not minute items. They're executive branch items, and oftentimes they're actually statewide items. We have this collective opportunity right now to reduce our risk and change the experience that Minnesotans are facing, and then this budget really is aimed at addressing that. And I want to turn the fund balance question over to you.
Deputy Commissioner, I won't downgrade you to representative.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to clarify one thing in the figures you're looking at that might be a bit misleading, which is the increase that's shown relative to the base is relative to Minute's direct general fund appropriations in past biennia, which are very minimal. Less than 2% of our total spend is a direct appropriation. We are by far and long a chargeback organization, so the vast percentage of our revenue is from services that we provide as a fee-for-service organization to the agencies. So what you're seeing there is an increase in the direct funding that goes to Minute for a more enterprise strategic approach to investing in application modernization. In the past, those dollars have flown directly to agencies based on the applications they request. What the governor is proposing here is that the IT organization prioritize what is most important and what those biggest opportunities are. So it's a difference in the way that dollars are appropriated, that in the way that the information is presented in the budget book appears to be a big increase. But when you compare it to the $600 million IT spend that occurs every year, it's a much smaller percentage.
And I would clarify the language you used. It's not misleading, it's somewhat confusing.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I
Representative
apologize to
Nadeau, really quickly, because I'm going to let Representative Bonner close out. But did you have a follow-up?
The only thing was I wanted you to address the fund balance,
Oh, yeah.
internal fund balances.
Deputy Commissioner.
Madam Chair, so our fund balance, I think the equivalent would be our revolving fund, so which is the fund that we use to charge back for the services that we provide. The budget of that revolving fund is somewhere in the neighborhood of $210 to $220 million a year. That's the spend associated with centralized services that are common for all agencies. The balance at any given day or week fluctuates, so I would have to get back to you with a precise number on essentially cash on hand if that's gets at the question that you're asking.
We'll move on to to Representative Bonner. We'll
Yep,
get
thank
that
you, Madam
information to
Speaker.
you. Representative Bonner, we have less than a minute. Please go.
Thank you. I'll try to be really quick, and I just want to throw out a couple of quick facts, and I'll ground us in why I'm giving you these. So in 2021, we estimate the cost of things like ransomware cost about $1.85 million to individual businesses. 32% of individuals who have ransomware pay the ransom, but only get 65% of their data. In other words, they've potentially given away their banking information, they've given away their money, and not necessarily gotten rid of the cost to get rid of the malware or even get their data back. The city of Atlanta had their services shut down, cost them $2.7 million in recovery services, while folks were unable to pay their taxes, they were unable to pay their water bills and basic essential services. The state of Minnesota is considerably larger, considerably more complex, and what we continue to hear from everyday citizens is that they want us to meet them where they are when it comes to services. We have an incredible opportunity to use technology to modernize, to update our security and our efficiency, especially in light of challenging circumstances with staffing. And as we've heard today, there is a common thread about modernization and security. The consequences of not acting to modernize, the consequences of not adequately funding our IT spend are incredibly stark. And we need to be very well aware of that as we have these conversations and be mindful of that. And with that, I will just finish with, I also want to acknowledge that we have come a very long way in 4 years from some disarray to recently getting an A rating in the state for our IT efforts. And I would not want to steal your thunder in case you have a comment on how we got that A rating and what incredible work went into that.
This is the beginning of a conversation, not the end of a conversation. And with that, I will thank you so much for the expertise that you do bring to our state and your commitment to serving all Minnesotans, both of you. Thank you.